Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chair Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diri Nashtapraye Shavatreshu Nityam Bhakta Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, today we are starting new chapter, chapter 20, Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe. So previous chapter, it ended that Shukracharya was warning Bali Maharaj that he is Vishnu, he might look small, but he is going to take away everything in only 2 steps, and he won't even know where would he put his 3rd step. He won't even figure out. And so you can lie, you can say no and this and that, but Bali Maharaj was fixed up in serving the Lord. Next one, Shri Shukavacha, Balir evam grihapati kulacharena bhashita tushnim bhutva kshanam rajan uvacha vahito gurum. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, it was King Parikshit, when Bali Maharaj was thus advised by his spiritual master Shukracharya, his family priest, he remained silent for some time, and then after full deliberation, he replied to his spiritual master as follows. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Bali Maharaj remained silent at a critical point. How could he disobey the instructions of Shukracharya, his spiritual master? It's the duty of such a sober personality as Bali Maharaj to abide by the orders of his spiritual master immediately, as his spiritual master had advised. But Bali Maharaj also considered that Shukracharya was no longer to be accepted as a spiritual master, for he had deviated from the duty of his spiritual master. According to Shastra, the duty of the Guru is to take the disciple back home, back to Godhead. If he is Asasyat, one should not become a guru if he cannot enable his disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. The goal of life is to become a devotee of Lord Krishna so that one may be freed from the bondage of material existence. The spiritual master helps the disciple attain this stage by developing Krishna consciousness. Now Shukracharya has advised Bali Maharaj to deny the promise to Vamandev. Under the circumstances, Bali Maharaj thought that there would be no fault if he disobeyed the order of his spiritual master. He deliberated on this point. Should he refuse to accept the advice of his spiritual master, or should he independently do everything to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? It took some time. Therefore, it is said, Tushnim Bhutva Kshanam Rajan Uvacha Vahito Gurum. After deliberating on this point, he decided that Lord Vishnu should be pleased in all circumstances, even at the risk of ignoring the Guru's advice to the contrary. See, another instruction now. Bali Maharaj, he deliberated on what Shukracharya said. Shukracharya is his Guru, and he had given him life when he had died in the battle between demons and demigods. But Bali Maharaj was not following blindly. We have to learn this. We should not just follow blindly. So Bali Maharaj thought of what Shukracharya is saying. Is it right or not? But he deliberated and he thought this is against the Shastras. So if a guru is not acting according to the Shastra, disciple has every right to reject that guru. So for that matter, one has to have the knowledge of the Shastras. And one has to have association of sadhus or devotees that he can consult. But here Bali Maharaj did not consult anybody, but he had the knowledge of the Shastras. Very important point. There is no such thing as blind following. Do we just follow the Guru blindly? No. Of course, we all get sentimental. Oh, he knows, or he or she, or he knows more than I do, and he has more devotion than I do. And maybe I'm not seeing it right, and maybe he's saying something for my ultimate benefit, or whatever questions. There can be thousands of questions. One has to clarify those. At the same time, of course, it's not recommended that every order of the Guru has to be questioned or every order has to be deliberated upon. But the point is no blind following. Bali Maharaj did not blindly follow Shukracharya. Prabhupada further says, anyone who is supposed to be a guru but who goes against the principle of Vishnu Bhakti cannot be accepted as a guru. If one has falsely accepted such a guru, one should reject him. Such a guru is described as follows in Mahabharata: Guru Rapi Avaliptapsya Karya Karyam Ajanata. Srila Jiva Goswami is advised that such a useless guru, a family priest acting as a guru, should be given up, and that the proper bona fide guru should be accepted. And who is a bona fide guru? A scholarly Brahmin, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava. But if a person born in a family of a lower caste is a Vaishnava, he can become a spiritual master. But even among Vaishnavas, one has to be very careful, very, very careful. Shri Baliruvacha Satyam Bhagavata Proktam Dharmo Ayam Grihimedhinam Artham Kamam Yasho Vrittim Yona Badhet Karechit. Bali Maharaj said, as we have already stated, the principle of religion that does not hinder one's economic development, sense gratification, fame, and means of livelihood is a real occupational duty of the householder. I also think that this religious principle is correct. Wow. So he is saying dharma, artha, kam, and fame and means of livelihood, this is a correct religious principle. But obviously he'll say something later on. Bali Maharaj's grave answer to Shukracharya is meaningful. Shukracharya stressed that one's material means of livelihood and one's material reputation, sense gratification, and economic development must continue properly. To see to this is the first duty of a man who is a householder, especially one who is interested in material affairs. And that's what Bali Maharaj said, it's for Grih Medhi Naam, Grih Medhi, not for Grihastas. If a religious principle does not affect one's material condition, it is to be accepted. At the present time, in this age of Kali, this idea is extremely prominent. No one is prepared to accept any religious principle if it hampers material prosperity. Shukracharya, being a person of this material world, did not know the principles of a devotee. A devotee is determined to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead to his full satisfaction. Anything that hampers such determination should certainly be rejected. This is the principle of bhakti, anukulasya sankalpa. To perform devotional service, one must accept only that which is favorable and reject that which is unfavorable. Bali Maharaj had the opportunity to contribute everything he possessed to the lotus feet of Lord Vamandev. But Shukracharya was putting forward a material argument to hamper this process of devotional service. Under the circumstances, Bali Maharaj decided that such hindrances should certainly be avoided. In other words, he decided immediately to reject the advice of Shukracharya and go on with his duty. Thus, he gave all his possessions to Lord Vamandev. So Shukracharya said first consideration of a householder should be economic development, sense gratification, fame, means of livelihood. Obviously, well, Prabhupada says anything that is unfavorable to bhakti should be given up. No, we have to find a balance. That's all. Those who are grihasthas, they have families to look after, parents, in-laws, and so many family members are there. Children are there, husband is there, wife is there. But at the same time, one has to try to make progress spiritually. And if the family members, sometimes it happens, they're not favorable, then how to make that balance? That is the test. So make that balance both materially and spiritually. So because understanding Krishna has put me in this situation. So I have to do my service very nicely to please Krishna. Take care of the family and the spiritual progress as well. If we are as advanced as Bali Maharaj, as surrendered as Bali Maharaj, obviously we'll see Bali Maharaj gave everything. He gave all his possessions to Lord Vamandev, and he was not a loser. He was definitely not a loser. He got much more in return. But we don't perform devotion service thinking that we will get much more in return. So with the faith, our faith is not that strong right now, so let it grow gradually. And with faith, we start giving up things, possessions in the service of the Lord. And the Lord will reciprocate, that's for sure. This is what the scriptures are for, to assure us, to give us strong faith in the devotion service. That Lord will take care. He says in Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavatam, it is shown by so many devotees so far, through Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, and other devotees also. Lord always takes care of his devotees. So let that faith grow. Sachaham vittalobhena pratyachakshe katham dvijam pratishrutya dadamiti prahadi kitavo yatha. I am the grandson of Maharaj Prahlad. How can I withdraw my promise because of greed for money when I have already said that I shall give this land? How can I behave like an ordinary cheater, especially towards a Brahmin? Bali Maharaj had already been blessed by his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore, he was a pure devotee, although born in a family of demons. There are two kinds of highly elevated devotees called Sadhana Siddha and Kripa Siddha. Sadhana Siddha refers to one who has become a devotee by regular execution of the regulative principles mentioned in the Shastras as ordered and directed by the spiritual master. If one regularly executes such devotional service, he will certainly attain perfection in due course of time. But there are devotees who may not have undergone all the required details of devotional service, but who, by the special mercy of Guru and Krishna, the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, have immediately attained the perfection of pure devotional service. Examples of such devotees means those are Kripa Siddhas, Yagyapatnis, Maharaj Bali, and Shukdev Goswami. The Yagyapatnis were the wives of ordinary Brahmins engaged in fruitive activities. Although the Brahmins were very learned and advanced in Vedic knowledge, they could not achieve the mercy of Krishna Balram. whereas their wives achieved complete perfection in devotion service, despite their being women. Means they didn't have knowledge of the Vedic scriptures, they could not perform the yagyas that their husbands were performing. But when Krishna Balram wanted food, they immediately packed everything they had cooked for the yagya and took it for Krishna Balram and their cohort boyfriends' satisfaction. So they achieved perfection. And later on, Brahmins understood their mistake. Similarly, Verochani, Bali Maharaj, received the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj. And by Prahlad Maharaj's mercy, he also received the mercy of Lord Vishnu, who appeared before him as a brahmachari beggar. Thus, Bali Maharaj became a Kripa Siddha because of the special mercy of both Guru and Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms this favor. Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Beej. Bali Maharaj, by the grace of Prahlad Maharaj, got the seed of devotion service. And when that seed developed, he achieved the ultimate fruit of that service, namely love of Godhead, immediately upon the appearance of Lord Vamandev. So this was his devotional seed became like a big tree when he saw, and he got the fruit of love of Krishna when he saw Lord Vamandev. Bali Maharaj regularly maintained devotion for the Lord, and because he was purified, the Lord appeared before him. Because of unalloyed love for the Lord, he then immediately decided, I shall give this little dwarf Brahman whatever he asks from me. This is a sign of love. Thus, Bali Maharaj is understood to be one who received the highest perfection of devotional service by special mercy. So Bali Maharaj got perfection of devotional service, and he got materially also very well taken care of by the Supreme Lord. So this is special mercy. Nahi asatyat paro adharma iti hovach bhurya sarvam sodu malam manne ritelik param nara. There is nothing more sinful than untruthfulness. Because of this, Mother Earth once said, I can bear any heavy thing except a person who's a liar. Very, very strong statement. On the surface of the earth, there are many great mountains and oceans that are very heavy, and Mother Earth has no difficulty carrying them. But she feels very much overburdened when she carries even one person who's a liar. It is said that in Kali Yuga, lying is a common affair. In 12th canto, it is said, Mayeva Vyavaharike. Even in the most common dealings, people are accustomed to speaking so many lies. No one is free from the sinful reactions of speaking lies. Under the circumstances, one can just imagine how this has overburdened the earth and indeed the entire universe. And Kali Yuga, this is something very common, as Prabhupada says, or Bhagavatam also says, very common. People just tell lies just like that. And can we imagine, it was only 5,000 years ago in the battle of Mahabharata, Maharaj Yudhishthir hesitated, even though Krishna was tell lie. Maharaj Yudhishthir hesitated to tell the lie because it was considered such a sin to be a liar. And now, even to cheat somebody of 1 rupee or 2 rupees, person can tell lies, thinking that nobody's watching me and no, I'm not going to pay this thing back. One has to get the reactions. One will get the reactions. Naham vibhemi niryanna dhanyad sukharnava nasthanitya vanan mrityur yatha vipralambana. I do not fear hell, poverty, an ocean of distress, fall down from my position, or even death itself, as much as I fear cheating a Brahman. This is the mood of Bali Maharaj, who's a proprietor of the whole universe at this time. And he says, I fear cheating a Brahman. How much we should be afraid of these things. Yad yad dhasyati loke asmin samparetam dhanadikam tasya tyage nimittam kim viprastushena tena chet. My Lord, you can also see that all the material opulences of this world are certainly separated from the possessor at death. Therefore, if the Brahman, Vamandev, is not satisfied by whatever gifts one has given, why not please him with the riches one is destined to lose at death? The word Vipra means Brahman, and at the same time, confidential. Bali Maharaj had confidentially decided to give the gift to Lord Vamandev without discussion. But because such a decision would hurt the hearts of the asuras and his spiritual master Shukracharya, he spoke equivocally. Means in both sides, you see. Bali Maharaj, a pure devotee, had already decided to give all the land to Lord Vishnu. So he is saying, Bali Maharaj is saying, I'm going to lose everything right at the time of death. And if I don't please this Brahman, that will be a very bad thing. So might as well please him and give everything to him, which I'm going to lose anyway. A very high philosophy. Not easy. Here people want to accumulate so much by cheating or by doing all sorts of nonsense, thinking they can carry it to the next life, to the next life, to the next life. Or they want their children, their family members to enjoy the property, not knowing that nobody can have anything, even a drop more than the assigned quota. This is Maya. This is real Maya. Shreya kurvanti bhutanam sadho dustya jasubhi dadhyang shibi prabhritya ko vikalpo dharadishu. Dadichi, Shibi, and many of the great personalities were willing to sacrifice even their lives for the benefit of people in general. This is the evidence of history. So why not give up this insignificant land? What is a serious consideration against it? And it's an insignificant land. It's a whole universe we are talking, not just 50-yard plot or 100-yard plot. Whole universe he's ready to give. Bali Maharaj was prepared to give everything to Lord Vishnu, and Shukracharya, being a professional priest, might have been anxiously waiting, doubting whether there had been any such instances in history in which one had given everything in charity. Bali Maharaj, however, cited the tangible examples of Maharaj Shibi and Maharaj Dadichi. So Shibi Maharaj's Katha I think it comes later in the 9th canto, who had given up their lives for the benefit of the general public. So just to give some story of Shibi Maharaj, Maharaj Dadichi we already read. He gave his bones to the demigods to make a weapon to kill Vritrasura. And giving the bones means you have to give one's life. And Maharaj Shibi, he was such a great king and very generous. So once he was sitting in his in the palace with all the ministers and everybody, and the pigeon came flying, and an eagle followed the pigeon. The pigeon came in flying, and he was scared, and he was running away from the eagle. Eagle was going to kill him, and pigeon came and sat on the thigh of Maharaj Shibi. So Maharaj Shibi just gave him protection, shelter. Eagle came. Eagle said, Maharaj, this is my food. You have to give him to me. Maharaj Shibi said, but this is not proper. I have given him shelter. You can eat some other pigeon. No. This is against the dharma. Eagle said, because this is my food. I was following him. I want to eat him. And this is the one I want to eat. So now Maharaj Shibi and the eagle had an argument, discussion, but eagle would not budge. So Maharaj Shibi said, okay, I'll give you piece of my flesh equal to the weight of this pigeon. Would you be satisfied then? But don't kill the pigeon because I've already given him shelter. The Kshatriya means Kshatriya. They're ready to protect the people they have given shelter to. So eagle said, okay. So weighing scale was brought and Maharaj Shivi cut his own thigh, the flesh from his own thigh and put it on the weighing scale. And on one side was a pigeon. And the pigeon was heavier. So Maharaj Shivi cut more flesh. But still the pigeon was heavier. He cut more flesh. Still the pigeon was heavier. So finally, of course, everybody was trying to stop him, but finally he himself decided to sit on that weighing scale. It was like, I'll give up my life to save this pigeon. And when he sat down, then the pigeon and the eagle, they were demigods, they were trying to test him. And then he got more mercy and more benedictions from the Lord and the demigods. I think Indra was. But this is the point that Bali Maharaj made, that Shibi Maharaj, he gave everything. Dadishi, he gave everything. So why can't I give? The Lord personally appeared to Bali Maharaj to take away everything he had. And thus he was so fortunate that he could see the Lord face to face. Non-devotees, however, cannot see the Lord face to face. To such persons, the Lord appears as death and takes away all their possessions by force. So one way or other, Lord is going to take away everything. Under the circumstances, why should we not part with our possessions and deliver them to Lord Vishnu for his satisfaction? Sri Chanakya Pandit says in this regard, Sannimite varam tyago vinashe niyate sati. Since our money and possessions do not last, but will somehow or other be taken away, as long as they are in our possession, it is better to use them for charity to a noble cause. Therefore, Bali Maharaj defied the order of his so-called spiritual master. So charity, yajna, dan and tap should never be given up. Yaryam bubuje brahman datyendra nivartibhi tesham kalu agra sil lokana yasho adigatam bhavi. O best of the Brahmins, certainly the great demoniac kings were never reluctant to fight, enjoyed this world. But in due course of time, everything they had was taken away, except their reputation, by which they continue to exist. In other words, one should try to achieve a good reputation instead of anything else. So good reputation, the kings would get if they give charity, but not how much land they had conquered. In this regard, Chanakya Pandit also says, Ayusha Kshana Eko Apina Labhya Swarna Kotibi. The duration of one's life is extremely short, but if in that short lifetime one can do something that enhances his good reputation, that may continue to exist for many millions of years. Bali Maharaj therefore decided not to follow his spiritual master's instructions that he deny his promise to Vamandev. Instead, he decided to give the land according to the promise and be everlastingly celebrated as one of the 12 Mahajans. So Mahajan, spiritual authority. Sulabha yudhi viprarshe hiyane vrittastya annu tyajaha na tatha tirtha ayate shraddhya ye dhan tyajaha. O best of the Brahmins, many men have laid down their lives on the battlefield, being unafraid of fighting. But rarely has one gotten the chance to give his accumulated wealth faithfully to a saintly person who creates holy places. Many Kshatriyas have laid down their lives on the battlefield for their nations, but hardly a person can be found who has given up all his property and his accumulated wealth in charity to a person worthy of the gift. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Datavyam iti yadadanam. That gift which is given out of duty at the proper time and place to a worthy person and without expectation of return is considered to be charity in the mode of goodness. That charity, the charity given in the proper place is called sattvic. And above this charity and goodness is transcendental charity, in which everything is sacrificed for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vamandev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had come to Bali Maharaj for alms. How could one get such an opportunity to give charity? Therefore, Bali Maharaj decided without hesitation to give the Lord whatever he wanted. One may get various opportunities to lay down his life on the battlefield, but such an opportunity as this is hardly ever obtained. So for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, one should be ready to give everything. Again, it comes to the level of faith. Manasvina karunikasya shobhanam yadarthi kamo panayane durgati kutah punar brahma vidam bhavadrisham tato vatorasya dadami vanchitam. By giving charity, a benevolent and merciful person undoubtedly becomes even more auspicious, especially when he gives charity to a person like your good self. Under the circumstances, I must give this little brahmachari whatever charity he wants from me. If one accepts a poverty-stricken position because of losing money in business, gambling, prostitution, or intoxication, no one will praise him. But if one becomes poverty-stricken by giving all of his possessions in charity, he becomes adored all over the world. Aside from this, if a benevolent and merciful person exhibits his pride in becoming poverty-stricken by giving his possessions in charity for good causes, his poverty is a welcome and auspicious sign of a great personality. So exhibits his pride. Pride not in the sense that, oh, see, I'm so big, I've given so much of charity. Pride means I'm poor, but that is good because everything is gone for the service of the Lord. Bali Maharaj decided that even though he would become poverty-stricken by giving everything to Vamandev, this is what he would prefer. Yajanti yagya kritu bhiryamadrita avant amnaya vidhana kovida sa eva vishnur varado astu vaparo dasyami umashme kshitim ipsitam munehe. O great sage, great saintly persons like you, being completely aware of the Vedic principles for performing ritualistic ceremonies and yagyas, worship Lord Vishnu in all circumstances. Therefore, whether that same Lord Vishnu has come here to give me all benedictions or to punish me as an enemy, I must carry out his order and give him the requested tract of land without hesitation. So basically, he's saying, Guruji, you are the one who taught me to serve the Lord, to satisfy Lord, to worship the Lord. Now, same Lord, you're saying same Lord has come here. Why are you stopping me? As stated by Lord Shiva, Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam. Although in the Vedas there are recommendations for worshipping many demigods, Lord Vishnu is the supreme person, and worship of Vishnu is the ultimate goal of life. The Vedic principles of the Varnashram institution are meant to organize society, to prepare everyone to worship Lord Vishnu. Varnashram Charvata Purushen Paratma. The supreme personality of God, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the supreme personality of Godhead. One must ultimately worship Lord Vishnu, and for that purpose, the Varnashram system organizes society into Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. Bali Maharaj, having been perfectly educated in devotional service by his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, knew how things are to be done. He was never to be misguided by anyone, even by a person who happened to be his own so-called spiritual master. This is a sign of full surrender. So Bali Maharaj is emblem of that full surrender. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had said, Marabi Rakabi Jo Ichha Tohar, Nitya Das Prati Tuya Adhikar. When one surrenders to Lord Vishnu, one must be prepared to abide by his orders in all circumstances, whether he kills one or gives one protection. Lord Vishnu must be worshipped in all circumstances. So this is sign of full surrender, Sharanagati. Yadyapya savadharmena mam vadhniyat nagasam tathapyenam na hinsishye pitam brahmatanum ritum. Although he is Vishnu himself, out of fear, he has covered himself in the form of a Brahman to come to me begging. Under the circumstances, because he has assumed the form of a Brahman, even if he irreligiously arrests me or even kills me, I shall not retaliate, although he is my enemy. If Lord Vishnu, as he is, had come to Bali Maharaj and asked him to do something, Bali Maharaj certainly would not have refused his request. But to enjoy a little humor between himself and this devotee, the Lord covered himself as a Brahman brahmachari and thus came to Bali Maharaj to beg for only 3 feet of land. So this is a special pastime going on of Lord Vaman there. So as you know, it's very difficult to understand the Lord's pastimes. Very, very difficult. And can we imagine? Of course, we are not at the level of Bali Maharaja. We are not at any level at all. But if we go to Vrindavan, our Lord has no problem in coming to Delhi or Washington, D.C. either. And if he comes in any form in front of us and asks for something, would we give? Would we know he is the Supreme Lord? Nobody to tell us. It's difficult. Because many times we see so many beggars on the street. Do we give? Eshava uttam shloko na jihasati yad yashaha atva menam hare yuddhe shayit nihato maya. If this Brahman really is Lord Vishnu, who is worshipped by Vedic hymns, he would never give up his widespread reputation. Either he would lie down having been killed by me, or he would kill me in a fight. Bali Maharaja's statement that Vishnu would lie down having been killed is not the direct meaning, for Vishnu cannot be killed by anyone. Lord Vishnu can kill everyone, but he cannot be killed. Thus, the real meaning of the words lie down is that Lord Vishnu would reside within the core of Bali Maharaja's heart. Lord Vishnu is defeated by a devotee through devotion service. Otherwise, no one can defeat Lord Vishnu. See, if somebody just reads that shloka without the purport, then he would say, oh, see, Lord Vishnu was going to be killed by Bali Maharaj. But no, Prabhupada explains. Killed means he was going to enter. Although as super soul, he's there in the heart of Bali Maharaj, but as Lord himself, he would enter and in one way he becomes a prisoner in the heart of his devotees, because he's defeated, he's controlled by the devotional service. Nothing else can defeat him. I guess I'll stop there, feeling a little tired today. So, see anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri